Have you noticed the difference between approaches and methods in teaching English? This video will give insights on approaches, methods, and techniques in teaching English. In the Philippine school setting for about 10 years or more, have been following the communicative approach, which believes that learners should be equipped and communicate effectively in LSRN skills, learning skills, and research network. So we follow the interactive method in order to achieve the target. The various activities or steps that we implement to class are called techniques. Techniques carry out a method which is consistent with an approach. Well, approach is a set of principles or ideas about the nature of language learning, while method is an overall plan for the orderly presentation of language material in an approach. Several approaches were being practiced in the school, like functional approach. This assumes that language is a social process. It is concerned with meaning, function, and language use. Another is natural approach. This is a direct method used in 19th century that attempted to mirror the processes of learning a first language. The important thing in this approach is that there is no grammar agenda as such. The learners perform the tasks to the best of their ability. Third is communicative approach. Learners learn through using it to communicate. Communication involves the integration of different language skills. Thus, fluency is an important dimension of communication. Those are the examples of learning approaches in teaching English. There are also different methods in teaching English in the class, like 1. Grammar translation method. The primary skills to be developed in this method are reading and writing. Teacher correction is the only way to make students produce the right forms of foreign language. 2. Direct method. The teacher should demonstrate, not translate, and should avoid explaining. The purpose of language learning is communication. 3. Interactive method. It involves facilitator and learners. It gives participants hands-on experience. The methods and approaches have been enumerated, but what about in the real setting? What are the methods and approaches used inside the classroom? Well, one English teacher who will share her experiences in the field on what are the best strategies, methods, or approaches applicable in the school. She is an experienced educator and English teacher for quite some time, a school administrator, and a retired education program supervisor in Region 10. She's been a trainer for so many years in journalism, curriculum development, language teaching strategies, and oral communication techniques. She is Miss Medarda Galarrita.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy today because I get a chance to talk with my friend over here, and he's going to ask me a lot of questions about my kind of work as an English teacher. So actually, I've been in the service, especially Deped, for more than, let me see, it's about almost 40 years. 20 years actually in actual teaching in a high school. But I got the chance also to work 2 years after my retirement. That's something, no? 2 years after my retirement, I was again rehired as a senior high school teacher in Laguindina National High School. And so if you ask me about my experiences, well, majority of the years I've been into teaching were more of meaningful. I would say meaningful and fulfilling and rewarding. Considering that, as you know, that when you become a teacher, or when you are a teacher forever. So you always have the chance that you get to touch the lives of young people and then mold them into somebody, and that somebody will become professional someday. And so not only because they were under you, but because they were able to share with you and relate with you all their lives, knowing, craving and knowing and wanting for knowledge. And you as a teacher has that kind of accountability to teach them. So we're really proud of it. And now you're asking about teaching strategies, and so I would say that when it comes to teaching the language, over the years I got this notion that teaching English is not exclusive to English teachers, by the way. I would like to make this clear that all teachers are language teachers. Because you see, a lot of people are really expecting too much from the English teachers, but everyone, when you are in the teaching field, everyone is an English teacher. And so when you talk about teaching strategies, I would say they have to be eclectic. Eclectic in the sense that though you are exposed to the different teaching strategies, but you've got to be selective and you've got to be cautious and choosy. Not exactly very choosy, but at least you should know what kind of teaching strategies that would apply to your kind of learner. Because you see, in our class, we have diverse learners. So anything that would fit in would be the right kind of choice. Though we are exposed to a lot of teaching strategies, but pick out those things that would really fit into the kind of students you have. I would say that not all of the language teaching approaches are applicable today. Why did I say that? Because as we learn that the traditional method, which is the audiolingual method, are not exactly good for this kind of students that we have today. They're visuals, no? Because their kind of generation is exposed already to high technology. And so we've got to grow and get close with where they are. So we have to have teaching strategies that are fitting to the kind of generation. So I say eclectic, only those that are fitting or the suitable to their kind of level of intelligence and their kind of skills as a students in the second language. No? If you ask me of the best strategy suited to our students, I guess I mentioned already, be eclectic, be conscious enough as to what you think are, because there are a lot, thousands, 100 of teaching strategies around based on trainings and exposures. I believe that you analyze first, assess first your kind of students before you can employ or before you can use a certain kind of strategy. May I mention, because you asked about what's the best strategy, may I focus for a while about this, because at this moment in time, what is binding and what is trending is the use of the collaborative method, and this is also true to the communicative language teaching approach, and also true to task-based and also the so-called these are approaches in teaching language where it is the common denominator is that they are all student-centered. When I say student-centered, I think very self-explanatory that the students are given all the chances in the classroom to participate actively. So gone are the days when the teaching of language is monopolized by teacher lecture or teacher talk. This time it has to be for over the years, since the emergence of high technology and the use of gadgets, we have to align ourselves so we get close to where they are, and learning will be very effective. So with the student-centered activities, we expose them to brainstorming, working on puzzles, whatever kind of puzzles it is. We expose them to role-playing, and then make use of whatever available materials in the field, and also the kind of exposure in the social media. Yes, even in the exposure in social media is very helpful for them to learn using language, and of course become a competent speaker of the language. Learners before and today, it's very understandable that the learners before, where we are part of that generation before, we are exposed only more on the audiolingual teaching method and learning, and also the learners are dependent to what the teachers would say and would lecture, but not much of exposure and giving them opportunities for them to get involved in a language learning situation. Opinion of the Philippines as the second English-speaking country in Asia and third in the world. It's very obvious also that Filipino speakers who are users of English as a second language, very popular among the demands of workers abroad, because they believe that the Filipino English, though they are using the North American, but they can approximately be understood all over the world, and they are also they can approximate the right accent, so they are very what do you call that? Their kind of English is legible, their kind of English is understandable. Relevance in the ranking of the Philippines to the kind of approaches, methods the teacher used in the class. Ranking, maybe we don't have really a very tangible basis for this, but as far as reports and comments and commendations of people, especially prospective employers abroad, or even our Filipinos are already working abroad, the general comment is that so far Filipinos are the best workers in terms of users of the language. Why English is really important in the Philippine school setting? We just don't confine the learning, or the teaching and learning of English right within our country, because we're now into global. No? So global meaning we are preparing our students to be competent speakers of the language, because they go outside of the country and they get employed and they get good opportunities working and even socializing and even having bright opportunities, and that English is one of the best assets that the Filipinos have. Wisdom. There is never an effective way of becoming a competent speaker of English. Is the best thing, I guess, is be exposed to different platform in English learning. Like what for me is self-learning is one, so it's not enough that you learn a lot from your environment, but you also have to yourself be a dedicated learner of the English language, because if you don't have the passion, you don't have the feeling and love of learning English or become a teacher in English, you will never be successful, of course. That's the best idea. Of course, welcome.
Though there are still advantages and disadvantages on the methods and approaches, the important is how the learner is able to grasp the learning and process based on how it is to be done, since the learners are the focus in every setting. Arguably, English is the most important subject in the Philippine school curriculum, because English language is referred to as the key to all other subjects.